What's up, guys? Mike from CloZure here. You guys are listening to Music Existence.
Welcome to another instance of Music Existence, where because of music, we exist. Right here, I have with me Michael McCann, the drummer of the band CloZure, who joined the band in 2020. And he's going to talk about the new single that we have out now, or the band has out rather, Criminal Mind, and much, much more right here. But without further ado, thank you, Michael, for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, brother. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So, talk to me about your history as a drummer. I noticed that uh, in researching CloZure, that you guys, a lot of you guys have an army background. I know in researching the history of, the formation of the band, uh, Michael Cordell and the original singer Sean were stationed at Fort Bragg, and you actually worked on attack helicopters. Is that right?
Yeah, yes, sir. I sure did. I did 6 years active duty in the United States Army. Mike Cordell, our lead. Sorry, that's my dog over there. Our lead guitar player. He did 24 years and actually retired out. And then our bass player is also prior military as well. He was in the Army as well.
That's awesome, man. And did your experience as a drummer go like hand in hand as far as you learning to, work with attack helicopters in the same way of constructing your own like custom drum sets?
Sure. I mean, I've never really gotten into the building of kits. I just, I'm very particular on what I like, what I want it to sound like. But as far as like building stuff like that, I haven't really delved too much into that. I did. I've got my own line now with Red Cymbals, my cymbal company that
I see that.
takes
Congrats,
care of
man.
me. Yeah, so I've got my own line that I got to build with them. And that was a fun experience. I had never done that before, so that was cool. Because they made it, per whatever weight I wanted, size, material. I mean, it was a really cool experience.
That's awesome, man. And like I'm glad like that you took that initiative to really put forth your expertise as a drummer and finding what you like. And how is it in general working with a number of brands? Actually, there's two more on that list too. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. I've got Scorpion Percussion. They take care of my drumsticks. And then I've got SJC, which takes care of my drum kits. And they again, when I went through that process, when I started working with them, I mean, they built that kit to exactly how I wanted it to. That was another cool experience. But I didn't, as far as like building goes, obviously I'm not doing any of that. SJC took care of that, but that was another process where it was like, well, what kind of hardware do I want? Like just different dimensions, like color patterns. That was pretty fun. But yeah, no, I love my setup now. I've got great companies that take care of me. So
That's really cool. Does it kind of open your mind as to like what you'd like to experiment with next?
it does, especially now that, like I've got everything that I need. Now it's like the fun time. Like, let's find some new fun stuff, that I want, not necessarily need anymore. Like, let's play around with some different things. So, yeah, it's cool. It definitely opens up, the possibilities in your brain.
And
So,
I
it's been
know,
fun.
yeah, that's cool. I noticed also that you sold your Tama kit, and do you miss having that? And like, did you have good experiences with that previously?
Yeah. So, funny story. my entire life growing up, like I looked at Paul Crosby, Saliva's drummer, as like my icon. Like growing up, that was
Of
my favorite
course.
drummer of all time. Um, and ironically, when I saw that video Click Click Boom come out, when that came out, I saw that kit and I, for the life of me, up until recently, thought that was Tama the whole time. So because I idolized him, I thought that that was a Tama kit, and that's what I've used up until recently. Was always Tama because of that. Come to find out, it was a Mapex kit up on the stage, so it wasn't even the right. But I was like, well, Paul, you earned Thomas some money. It didn't even mean to.
That's funny though. Like it all came down to your kind of misplaced association with that kid, and who knows, maybe a different fate would have led you down a different path drum wise.
Right,
but
for sure.
you mentioned your formative years, so take it back a little bit. How did you develop that sort of foundation for gravitating toward the drums when you were growing up?
Honestly, I don't. It's just that was so I grew up in a church setting. That's where I learned to play originally.
Like church
Um,
band?
yeah, yeah. So in my youth group, and then I had a few lessons from another drummer at the church. Luke, he kind of helped me set me on the basic path of this is how you do this, to kind of give me the base of what I was doing. Um, and then from there it just we got an opportunity to open up for a band called Disciple. They're still around, Christian heavy metal group. Really, really great guys, but that's really kind of what started the idea of playing music full time. When you see a bunch of grown men up there headbanging, having a good time, and they're still Christian guys, like that really started that transition for me of like, man, I would love to, like, that would be a dream come true. So that's really how it kind of got started, is just in the church. And as you grow up in life and you become an adult, things kind of take priority. So my music kind of took a back seat for a while, and so now it's back to the forefront.
And that's really cool. And that's similar to, um, what Sean and Mike experienced. They had that military background, and music kind of took a back seat, and then they met up, you know
Yeah.
and then they like restarted the band, kind of reestablished those sort of creative energies. Now, as far as your entry into the band, that happened around June of like 2020. So that was like really into COVID's lifetime, right?
Right, for sure.
So like, how was making that transition? Was it like, okay, we got you in the band, you're here, we can't do shows, but we're fully aware of your talent and your contributions?
Yeah, I think especially during that time, you're right. There was not a lot of playing anywhere for obvious reasons. But it was really a good opportunity for us to, I would say, one, when I first joined the band, they were more or less a cover band. They had a few, um, you know, singles that they had done, but they weren't doing all originals yet. And so honestly, when I joined the band, it was great because I had 40 songs I had to pick up and learn for the first few shows. Once we were able to start getting out there, and then we just started really trying to start writing our own stuff. Like the band really started to transition from playing covers and local bar scene kind of thing to really trying to figure out what we could do with this. And so, no, I mean, yeah, it sucked not being able to play, but I feel like, especially like me, Mike, and Matt, who are the three originals of the group that is now, it really kind of brought us together. Like we really started to develop as players and what we each wanted from each other. So
And,
no, it was great. It was great.
and because of your collaboration with Wake Up Music, you had to do an overhaul. So your history prior to that has been kind of not necessarily lost to time, but I wanted to like pick up the pieces. Um, but there was an original on Reverb Nation prior to you, a couple years prior to you, called "What If I Told You." And
Hmm.
what did you think about that song as far as its energy and the competency of the band to be able to transition from covers to originals?
So that's really the song that kind of sold me, to be honest with you.
What if I told you it won't be forever? If you could only hold on, keep your eyes on the horizon, things get better in time.
That was one of the songs that I like to keep in our set because I love that song. And what's really kind of put me back into music was that song because again, that was where it was like, because I didn't want to play covers. Originally I was like, sure, I'll do it, but the end game here is to let's write originals, and that I made that very clear when I was going through this interview process with these guys. And so like, because of that one song, it was kind of like I knew they had some talent there because it's not a bad song at all. In my opinion, I really enjoyed it. And so I knew there was something there. So I just had to find it. And so when, we started writing our own stuff, we kept writing and writing and writing. But yeah, we've had to delete a lot of the other stuff because now that we're female fronted, we get so much confusion now. People think that we swap back and forth, or like we've had some weird things going on. Like people are thinking that, our singers transitioned. Like, I mean, we've had some wild stuff. So just to kind of keep it even keel, we've kind of gotten rid of, I don't want to say gotten rid of, but we've taken a lot of the older stuff down. All the male fronted stuff we tried to take down.
Yeah, it must be kind of, frustrating, especially for the old guard of fans who are interested in your new stuff. I mean, I like to backtrack. You know me, like I'd love to, do like kind of a deeper kind of sense for the interviews, but it's similar to how you'll never see Puddle of Mud release Stuck or Abrasive, which were their two indie albums from the
Right.
90s.
Right.
But, at least you acknowledge them. And then what other, um, besides What If I Told You, what other like originals from that period did you find had like a lot of potential as you were getting going? Again, making
Sure.
that transition.
So Val was and still is our probably most successful song in terms of streams and views and all that craziness that everybody looks at.
Well, because she lives.
Like there was a lot of firsts for that song. We were on tour when we shot that music video. So again, and that was like our first tour together. So there was a lot of firsts. So Val for me was always one of my favorites, and it was our most popular up to date. And then probably Foolish Man was probably my third.
What can you say about what happened last year with that overhaul and incorporating Zach Taylor and Nicola Leschi?
Yeah. So, as things go on, life, kind of has its own way of, keeping things on on life's path. And, Josh decided to step down, along with Chris. And so it was a challenge. I think anytime a band goes through lineup changes, especially when you're talking about the front person, it can absolutely be a challenge, but It was a learning process for sure. Um, and it's still a learning process. I mean, I particularly at first didn't want to go with a female front because I didn't want any of the confusion. I didn't want to have to put a changing section in the tour bus. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't want to have to do all that craziness. But no, Liz came in and she is just like one of the guys. I mean, she pulls her weight just like the rest of us. Um, and Zach, we had actually met Zach on a previous tour. He was one of the local openers that opened for us in there in Kentucky. And out of the 40 different bands, 30, 40 different bands that we had met through that tour, I can tell you Zach was the only bass player I can tell you I remembered by name. I mean, he's just an animal on that stage. He's just such a goofy dude. He's the happiest guy you will ever meet in your life. And he has no problem letting anybody know how happy he is. And so, you know, when we started looking for a bass player, he threw his hat in the ring and he wound up winning it. But I mean, it's been a great ride so far with this new lineup. Very, very excited.
So would you say that you instantly hit it off regardless of the challenges making that transition?
Yeah, I mean, so I work in India full time. So when we were going through this process, I was still over in India. And so
That's a lot of distance, right?
What's that?
That's a lot of distance.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm in India. Our singers in Orlando, Florida, Zach's in Kentucky, and then Mike and Matt are both in Enterprise, Alabama. So we're kind of spread out a little bit. But I mean, just to answer the other question, it was kind of like it's really even hard to explain. Like, yeah, it was challenges, but it was like the first practice I wasn't even here for. I was still in India, and Mike, Zach, Nikolai, and Matt all got together, and they wrote the Devil Effect in that day. And it was like everybody just kind of came. First time they all met, like she flew from Orlando up here. Zach drove down from Kentucky. Everybody got in the room and they wrote the Devil Effect right there. I mean, it was instantaneous. So that was in September. In November, we actually went to the studio to work with Malcolm Springer, our producer, for the music that we've released so far. And it was like, so that was the first time I got to meet her and Zach and see how everything, you know, worked as a band. Now that
Like
we were
all together in the same room.
right. So we rented an Airbnb. Because I work overseas, I had my wife and kids come up there with us while we were in Nashville. The whole band, we all drove up. We all met in Nashville. We were there for like 10 days, did our studio stuff, all that. And it was just like one little family. It was instant. I mean, I've never experienced that before.
Were you surprised? Were there like some tears? Like, this is what what I wanted, what I imagined, and I'm glad this came through, because who knows what would have happened, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say there was tears yet. There it was just, it was a lot of different mixed emotions. I'll say I got emotional the first time was after we got off the stage the first time. And it was like our first show on our first little headline show that we did before we went out with Power Man and Sponge and Tantric. We did a mini headlining tour just to kind of get our feet wet. You know, we haven't all played together. And it was after that first show that I kind of got a little choked up, because it was like, man, it came together. And it was like, now I can start to see that finished product.
Everything's coming to place. You mentioned the Devil Effect. That's a massive song. And the video, too. Thomas Crane, known for his kind of synesthetic style, matching the sounds with the colors.
Yeah, Thomas Crane is a genius. If it were just up to me, I would work with Thomas on every music video we'd ever do. I mean, that guy just has a way of knowing how to take your words when you're describing something for what you want to see in the video and he just has a way of doing it. I've never seen anything like that before.
Especially with the vocalist, with her vocal style, with her whole aesthetic, with her look. It really complements you guys really well.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I mean, he's like the nicest guy you'll meet. Just, all right, cool, guys. Like, we'll do this. I mean, just as easy to be to work with. And just, man, once he gets everything back and he starts working and doing his editing, and my gosh, it's incredible what he comes up with.
Yeah, and I've worked with tough people when it came to like production. Sometimes they'll be nosy or indifferent to you or dismissive towards something, but that's so awesome that you met such not only a creative guy but an open guy.
Right. Yeah, he's a fantastic guy to work with. Fantastic.
And what can you say about your other singles? Like starting off 2024, I know you did a cover of "Bring Me to Life" by Evanescence, and that goes back again to like your new metal roots.
Yeah, no, that was a fun experience. So again, we're not really big into covers.
Yeah, but you
Liz,
nailed it, man.
yeah, Nikolai, our singer, went to NAMM,
Right.
the big drum, show or whatever music thing they do in it's either like California or Vegas, wherever it was at this year. But she was talking to some label executives there, and they had started saying like, man, you guys should do like a cover of Evanescence. Like you guys, like you've got the look for it. She's got the vocals. Like it's a great tool to use. And so she came back from that. And so again, we kind of molded over. And Josh from Magnolia Parks is a really big friend of Nikolai. They're Josh and Nikolai are very, very good friends. And so one day we were sitting over at India and we were having our business meeting and we were sitting there going through stuff. And that was just one of the things that we picked up on. Like, hey man, A&R folks are asking for this. Like, we just need to go ahead and do it. It's not hard, but we just need to go ahead and get it out there. And so we did. And my gosh, the amount of positive feedback and views and all that crazy stuff in just such a short time has been mind blowing. I mean, crazy great comp. I mean, everybody's been really cool about, letting us know what, how well we did with that. And just very grateful for that.
I like it because, especially nowadays when it comes to covers, you find like a lot of people, a lot of artists want to leave their own kind of unique stamp or like a unique take. But this is like one of those note for note covers where I'm actually like, this makes sense the way it was done.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, yeah, we really didn't want to, with that song, I mean, it's such a big song. I mean, my gosh, the billions and billions of streams and views. And, it was just, we didn't want to disrespect, Amy Lee and those guys in Evanescence and try to make it, something that it wasn't. We just wanted to respect the song. We did add some more guitar stuff towards the end.
Yeah.
Just to kind of give it our signature. So that way, we did change something on it a little bit.
Yeah, the guitars are like a little bit darker and down tuned, right?
Yeah, I mean, we just, like I said, we just really tried to respect, the original song and not try to add too much to that. Because, I mean, it's already a beautiful song,
Mm-hmm. And then you had another single out called Nevermore.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a bit about that one.
Yeah, so that's actually my personal favorite so far. Out of all the 4 songs that we've got out right now, that's probably my favorite. Again, I'm just such an emotional writer, And so I feel like it's got to build up to that song to where it starts off a little slow and then it gets going and it comes back down and then it gets back up again. And then the vocals at the end where she hits that upper register. It's my favorite so far. But that was shot at Warehouse 231 in his recording studio. And that was a lot of fun. Thomas Crane did that one as well. I loved, he just had a great vision for that one, with the walkthroughs and the mannequins and the word on play on, what the mannequins were supposed to represent as far as like the people and stuff like that. So I thought Thomas nailed that video. That's by far my favorite one so far.
Your latest single that you have, let's talk about that now. That's Criminal Mind. Would you say that's kind of, you reached like a peak as far as what you want your sound to encapsulate?
So I don't know if I would say that yet, because we're still, we're just at about a year of all of us being together. So our writing right now, and we're going back to the studio in January, is different from that. So it's like we're still kind of evolving, on what our sound is going to really finish up and be like. But Criminal Minds was something that the label, our label Wake Up, decided to go with. We were planning on, before we signed with Wake Up, a different song, a ballad. And the label wanted to go with something a little more up energy, high energy. So while we were on tour, we actually shot all that playthrough music video stuff, like while in New York City and at the King of Clubs there in Columbus, just to kind of put something together, because we weren't, like, we had shot the music video for the other song with Thomas 2 weeks prior. So we were like all getting ready to go for that one. But no, Miss Pepper said she wanted to go with something, a little more energetic. So we threw that one together and really excited so far. It's done really, really well. No complaints there at all. And it's just a fun song. We had such a fun time writing that one. It was just a lot of fun.
And how do you feel about the chemistry that you have with your label? Because you've known, like, ever since like probably the beginning of time, an artist or a band wants to do their own thing. They have a song that they believe in. The label's choice for the single ends up bombing so hard, and the artist with his instinct knows like all along that his gut was right, and then he ends up being right, and then that ends up being the hit. But what can you draw from Wake Up and their decisions as a label to know what songs will resonate with fans the most?
Yeah, so Pepper is the owner of Wake Up.
Right.
And I will say this, this is my first record label. This is my first interaction with any of that stuff. I've heard all the crazy horror stories,
right,
as I'm sure everybody else has.
Right.
I'll say my experience with Pepper so far has been nothing like anything I've ever heard.
Awesome.
Pepper is probably, if not the one of the biggest supporters of our music as far as our originality and how we want to go through things. When I said, the label just, wanted to go with something higher energy, that wasn't like a dictatorship thing. She wasn't saying she wouldn't release whatever music we wanted to release. It was, this is her opinion. And she gave reasons on why she went with her opinion. And so the band decided, okay, well, let's follow this guidance. You know what I mean?
Right. In other words, it's someone who knows your sound, embraces your sound, and knows based on the notes that she takes what works best based on her admiration of you, probably.
Oh man, she's an artist herself,
right. So she has that instinct.
Yeah, she's man, my goodness. I don't think we could have gotten a better person to join this team than Miss Pepper. I mean, she's just a godsend. She's the sweetest person you'll ever talk to, and just she truly lives by what she says. And I'll say that if she's going to sign a band, she's not just signing a band just to sign a band. She's signing that band because she truly believes in what they're trying to do.
So what she brings was probably missing from a lot of labels, a lot of modern labels, and labels as big as Wake Up is the nurturing. The nurturing has like gone out of style. You know, if you're not up to speed within couple weeks, couple months, you're dropped, you're out. But
Right.
she nurtures bands that she
Yeah, no.
believes in.
Absolutely does. She's not just, the label owner or the person that pushes our music, but she's also like a mentor, like a coach, if you would. She's given us her opinions, and her guidance
That
is
is
based off of.
extremely rare, man.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think I know everybody's experiences with labels is completely different than ours, and I'm just grateful that we got a good one, because she just, man, she's as good as gold.
As far as your recording efforts, your recent recording efforts, you said you're going into the studio.
Mhm.
What do you plan to release as far as putting this in like a full length setting? Do you want to
So,
explore like a lot more of those themes and styles?
so, unfortunately, in today's world, it's very much driven by singles. A lot of bands, unless you're already established, anyway, let me back that up. Unless you're an established, like Metallica could release an album, no problem, but for us smaller guys, it's really more or less driven by singles.
Mm-hmm.
And, every 3 months, 4 months, pumping out another song, and just continuing that until you can get your own founding established. And then if you wanted to go out and do the album stuff, and you absolutely can knock that out.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, we've got 5 songs that we're going to be getting done in January,
Mm-hmm.
and those will be released throughout the year.
Mm-hmm. And do you have stuff in your catalog that you would like that have more of like that album feel?
Yeah, again, because we're trying to really write singles, I know every artist out there, when they write something, they try to make it as strong as possible,
Right.
but to say that you don't have filler music for albums is crazy. That absolutely happens. You've got your strongest ones.
An album is more of or it was like an obligation.
Right. So for us, because we're just so really just single-minded,
Single-minded. Pun intended.
right. I feel like right now, these 5 are just really strong songs. I mean, they're just really strong. And we're getting
listen
better
to them
and better.
and you immediately start moving.
Yeah.
So that's your alley, man. That's what you do, and and I've had like new respect for the modern climate. I used to be sort of dismissive, but in being in music journalism, it's really opened my mind as far as not only how artists can express themselves, but how they can work as a team. And
Sure.
it's really brought together. You're not alone in this business. Like, your team is what makes it possible. So, overall, what can you say about the team that you have now?
Oh, man. The lessons we have learned from having bad team members. I could write a book.
You've had, what are some of the bad instances?
I mean, I don't want to go into too many specifics because I'm so grateful for everybody that we've had, whether it's good or bad, because I've learned something.
Yeah.
But I mean, we've had some crazy stuff. I mean, let me see what's something I could. I mean, there's 1,000 things I could talk about. I mean, the team we have now, as far as how we're operating with promotional aspects, with the label backing us, with our management now, with, our booking agents, it's everybody is trying to push CloZure forward. Whereas I'll say before, I felt like it was certain companies were trying to push their brand first and then it was us.
It was more
Whereas,
corporate, right?
right. Whereas now I feel like, I mean, and we've got some of the biggest names in the industry working with us and they're pushing CloZure. So it's a really cool that I've loved. I love the change of everybody on the team now is only in it for one thing, and that's just to see how we can be successful, which is very cool.
That's really awesome, man. Like, so glad that like you can work with, and not all corporate interests are bad. Like sometimes if you get that push, you're able to, reach a broader audience. So you kind of work with what you have in that sense.
Sure. Well, and that's what I'm saying, like previous mistakes and, previous team members that we've had and band members.
Was it like very like sketchy and like people not being good on their word?
Yeah, it's just honestly, it was just if you don't know something, you don't know what to ask.
Right.
And so a lot of the times you'll see either people taking advantage of you because you just don't know.
So like
Or,
smoke and mirrors kind of stuff?
yeah, big time. I mean, a buddy of mine told me the other day, he said 95% of the music industry is people trying to screw you over. He said, if you can find the 5% that are left, that's who you stick with. And they're gonna make you, successful.
No one's going to brush you off. No one's going to take you for granted. They're just going to
Right.
support you every step of the way.
Yeah, and that's what we've got now for sure. For sure.
Considering the career that you've had thus far, especially with the older music of the past and your kind of overhaul that you've done this year and last year, what have you learned about yourself, not only as a musician, but as a person?
Oh my gosh, man, we've been through some challenges the last couple of years with the band, and I'll say this. So again, I work overseas in India, and like my family, I'll say is probably what I've learned the most about because it's not easy, when your husband's overseas, dad's overseas, and then you come back, and now he's on the road touring and traveling and doing all this stuff. So I've learned that my wife and kids are a lot more stronger than I really thought they were. Because I mean, to be able to pull away like that and do that so that, I can live my dream, I mean, it's just been a godsend as well. And I know all the bandmates feel that way. I mean, it's crazy. We were shooting Foolish Man and Matt had just had twin boys, like his boys were still in the hospital. Like you can see him in the music video with the medical bracelet on it. So it's not just about me, like everybody in this band, even the new folks have at some point within the last year, made a personal sacrifice. Zach just had a baby and, a week later we're on tour doing our mini headlining tour. Nikolai, she lost her dad, so it's like all of us have had to go through some garbage in the last few years to just keep pursuing this dream. And it's like now things are starting to catch, things are starting to pay off, and it makes all that sacrifice like, thank you, finally,
Mm-hmm. And even in the bad shit, like what Nikolai experienced, and the sacrifice and the bonds that you had to keep intact. Overall, from what I take away from this, is faith is your greatest asset.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It
Without a
is for
doubt.
me too in doing this, and I appreciate your patience, and this has been fantastic, man. So thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. next time we'll have to get Nikolai on here for you.
Holy shit, man, that would be awesome. I'd love to talk with all of you. Like, your music is great, and you've been, top dogs. So that's
Well,
awesome,
appreciate
man.
that. Yeah, appreciate that. Definitely stay in contact, man, so we can get Nikolai on here.
Mm-hmm.